I am Jonathan Lehman of Nine Marks, and for this episode of Journal Talk, I'm here today with Dan Darling. Dan is the Senior Vice President for Communications at the National Religious Broadcasters, and he wrote an article for our journal on pastoring through political turmoil. The journal is on pastoring through political turmoil. That's the overall theme. And he wrote a piece for us called Whatsoever is True, reflecting on the growth of conspiracy theories among Christians. Dan, a few questions. First, are conspiracy theories growing in popularity among the saints at the moment?
Well, thanks for that, and I appreciate the opportunity to write for the journal. This comes from my work on my book, Away with Words. It talks about our online conversations.
Away with Words, using our online conversations for good, from B&H, just published.
Yes. So I think there's a number of reasons why the public at large and Christians in particular are increasingly interested in conspiracy theories. So, there's always in a fallen world, there's always going to be a segment of people who are given to these things, even in good times. But I have this thesis that when trust in institutions is low, as it is across the board, belief in conspiracy theories rises. So,
right.
Trust in our major institutions like the media, like the church, government, you just go across the board. Every major institution right now is suffering a crisis of trust because, in the last several decades, almost all of them have failed us at some point. And so when you have a crisis in trust, you have a rise in belief in rumors and conspiracy theories. And it's not just at the macro level, you could see this at the micro level sometimes, right? If you have a church environment, for instance, where there's low trust in the pastor, this is where rumors and things fly. But if the pastor has a high degree of trust, you're always going to have a little bit of that. But for the most part, that won't flourish. I think the second reason is, in tumultuous times like we're living in, people look for comfort. And there's a kind of false comfort people can get in kind of being in the know, that they know how all these things are worked out. They're finding their comfort and their strength in kind of knowing the secret things.
Rather than comfort, I think you talk about there's kind of a control as well you get.
Yes.
Okay, let me connect the dots for you.
That's exactly right. Like there's a sense of control that I'm in the know. I know how this all works out. And it's easier for people to believe that than kind of in the mystery of life in a fallen world where things are hard and difficult and there's things that we can't understand. Yeah. And obviously the Christian response to that is that our ultimate comfort comes from Christ. The only real conspiracy theory is that there's a prince and power of the air. We don't fight flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. And this attempt to connect dots, generally, at the end of it doesn't satisfy. I think another reason why belief is high too.
Well, we should say the Bible actually connects all the dots that we need.
That's exactly right.
You say at one point, we should instead turn to the story of the Bible of Satan's conspiracy to corrupt the human race and defeat God and Jesus' divine rescue that ushers in a new kingdom conspiracy of peace and love. And you say the gospel is more emotionally satisfying. And I'm just thinking, as you learn the story of the Bible, that dot to that dot to that dot to that dot to that dot. Oh my goodness. Praise the Lord, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And it's hard for us to just accept the fact that there's incompetence, right? Jim Mattis, who's a retired Secretary of Defense, well-regarded general, he says, actually it's not Jim Mattis, sorry, it's former Secretary Robert Gates, who is also Secretary of Defense. He says never, and I'm paraphrasing, never chalk up to malice what can be attributed to incompetence, right? And I think that's a great way of looking at things, even sometimes in
And,
our own
and
lives.
living in Washington, D.C., I know a little bit of what you're talking about.
Right. But you even see that in church life, right? Where,
Right.
or even in the evangelical world, where it's like there must be this deep conspiracy, and actually it's just humans, incompetence. And so I think as Christians, we should seek out what is true. Another reason for our belief in these is also the growing kind of bubbles that people live in. There's kind of a confirmation
Echo chambers.
bias. So we only want news that conforms to our worldview. We only want news that makes us, that confirms what we already think about the people with whom we disagree.
Yeah.
We live in these kind of, I think, two information ecosystems.
Right.
And that's where conspiracy theories thrive.
Because nobody is offering counterfacts,
Right.
other narratives, other interpretations to go against that little echo chambers interpretation. So it's just kind of the self-reinforcement mechanism with new data, not data flowing in.
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Last question. What should pastors do if you're dealing with a member of the church who's kind of caught in the thrall of this or that conspiracy theory? How do we respond as pastors?
I think number one, in the regular course of our preaching, when we're going through books of the Bible, inevitably we're going to come up on passages that talk about honesty, that talk about truth. And I think we need to make good application to present day and even our news consumption, and just say, make sure what you're reading is true. I try to tell people if stories come across that really reinforce what I already believe about someone I disagree with, question your biases, read from a broad cross section of news outlets. But I also think pastors and just other people, as we're encountering folks who believe in this, I don't know that it's fruitful to actually go toe to toe with someone who believes in a deep conspiracy theory, because you never end up winning. You spend 2 hours of your time and it's hard to prove a counterfactual. It's hard to prove, that these things don't happen. So I think we have to love these people, maybe gently challenge them. I think there can be a sense from us of smugness that is counterproductive. I also just think in our own lives and our own leadership, the more trustworthy we are, the more transparent we are, the more shepherding we are with the things that we do, the more leadership capital we gain by being good shepherds, the more we can combat these things, right? These things thrive in an atmosphere of mistrust and a lack of transparency. Did that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. Friends, the article is Whatsoever is True, reflecting on the growth of conspiracy theories among Christians. You can find it at 9marks.org, and it is an excerpt from his book, A Way with Words, Using Our Online Conversations for Good. Dan, thanks so much for taking time with me.
Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate it.